Facebook, Witchy Mamas. This is Avani from Ecstatic Earth Arts, and today we are going to be chatting about how to celebrate Mabon, or some people might pronounce it Mabon, or there's a lot of different ways, but the point is it's the fall equinox, and today we're going to talk about how to celebrate it. I have got some crazy hair things happening, and I am really quickly going to do pull up a second window on my tablet down here where I have Facebook happening, so make sure I can see everybody's comments. If you're joining me live or on the replay, which only people on the replay are seeing stuff this early anyway, so if you could do me a favor, throw a hashtag live or hashtag replay into the comments, that'd be great. Helps other folks find us. As you can see, today I am back home. I have my plain white backdrop behind me, which is in my bedroom. I'm actually sitting on my bed right now, and I am still trying to get this open. Ecstatic Earth Arts. I think I just clicked the wrong thing. Something about voting? Oh no, I think it's doing it right. Hang in there with me. Here we go. Ecstatic Earth Arts. Here, no, that is, oh, sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. That's helpful. Weird. Let's see, maybe is Facebook not... It says here that 2 people are watching. Anybody who's watching, if you could throw a hashtag live into the comments, that'd be great, just so I can see that you're here, because Facebook only shows me that you're here, not who you are. Love to see your lovely names and faces so I can say hi to you, faces, so to speak. I don't understand what is happening here. Let me try to refresh this page. Facebook is not cooperating for me to open my extra tab, so I'm just playing with that a little bit while we wait for folks to come. Here we go. Let's open you. Expand. Oh, no, not that much. And turn the sound off. Excellent. Now I'm here. Perfect. It is 4:02. I'm a little bit running behind today. I had to go get one of my kiddos off the bus. They just started school this week. Share this stream to help. Oh, why would I share my own? Whatever. It's fine. So, kids started school this week. My kids are doing hybrid school. They are Monday, Tuesday, they are distance learning, and then Thursday, Friday they go in person. So this was only their second in-person back to school day. Plus we had a death in the family, so to speak. Actually, it's a friend of the family's beloved pet that everybody loved passed away, which is sad. So my kids are dealing with that. So up until I came over here to chat with you guys, I was snuggling with my very sad 5-year-old. But that said, I'm here, I'm set up. Again, if you're watching, either live or on the replay, please show a hashtag live or a hashtag replay into the comments so I know that you're here so I can say hello. So let's real quick, now that we're ready to actually jump into my planned pre-show, let's chat about, I'm going to refresh this because it's being dumb. Let's chat about herbs. Oh gosh, and now it's saying that my network was interrupted. Alright, there we go. I want to open this. Perfect, better. Sound still off? No? Alright. So, herbs that you harvest in September / the fall. So here's a cool thing about herbs and plants is in the fall what happens is, let's actually backing up a little bit. In the spring as they grow, a lot of the vital energy of the plant is in the leaves, as the leaves are what's kind of helping the plant to grow. Then later in the season, in the summer and in the fall, early fall at least, it grows flowers. And so basically springtime is really the right time for harvesting leafy herbs because the vital energy of the plant is mostly in the leaves. In the summer and early fall, it's a great time for harvesting flowers and fruits because that's where the vital energy again of the plant is. But then in the fall, what happens is the vital energy starts to withdraw into the plant because it knows that winter is coming. So as it turns out in the fall, as you might have surmised based on my kind of summary description here, it is the best time for harvesting roots of plants. So I have 5 roots that are great things that you can harvest in the fall. I tried to pick things that I know I have access to, which means they're things that you can forage. Facebook is showing me we've got 2 people. If you're here, please throw a hashtag live in the comments so I can say hi. We're going to be talking about how to celebrate Mabon today, or fall equinox if you're not familiar with that term. And now I'm talking about harvesting and wildcrafting / foraging for herbs. So the first herb I want to talk about is burdock. I There's also other similar plants called curly dock or yellow dock, or I think there's even a red dock if I'm not mistaken. I earlier in the season went to a local, I don't want to call it a park. I mean, it's called a park, but it's more like, it says I'm currently offline. But this says I'm not offline. I'm just going to leave that and see what happens. My internet connection was restored. Excellent. Again, if you're here watching, hashtag live so I can say hi, so I can see who you are, who's watching. So burdock, early in the season I was at a little nature area that's close by me, and there was this burdock that literally the leaves were like this big, like gigantic, like big beautiful leaves. But the leaves aren't the part of the burdock plant that are medicinal and generally used, it's the root. And the magical uses of burdock are cleansing, protection, prosperity, and vitality, but it also has a lot of medicinal uses. All the roots here that I'm going to be talking about have both magical and medicinal uses, so I'm going to talk about both just so you kind of get an idea of how you can use it for. The medicinal uses of burdock is that it has a ton of antioxidants in it. And it is detoxifying, and actually there are some things that I saw that suggested that it could even be a libido enhancer, so that's kind of interesting. Burdock generally grows in like really swampy areas, so if you know somewhere that has a lot of moisture, you might find burdock, yellow dock, curly dock in those areas. And curly dock, literally, it's the same kind of leaf, but it's literally curly. Think of like curly kale where it has like the curly edges. And then the second thing I want to talk about is hydrangea. So hydrangea, the flowers and the plant is actually toxic. And it's actually like one of those medicines that you need to be really careful about using. Internally and medicinally. But I want to talk about it because it does have magical uses. So hydrangea roots are another thing you can find. They're used a lot as ornamental bushes and shrubbery. I have one that is in my front yard. And actually, I didn't even know that hydrangea was really good to use for different types of magic until I started doing the research for this for you guys. So that was really cool. So maybe I'll actually go out and get some because, like, why not? It's right there. Hydrangea, the magical uses of hydrangea root specifically is that it prevents nightmares, especially for women while they're menstruating, which is oddly specific, but that's a thing. And it's also often used as a charm for breaking hexes. Medicinally, it's said to dissolve stones in the body, think like kidney stones, and is also used as a diuretic. But again, I absolutely do not recommend using it internally. I am not a licensed medical professional. I'm not even an herbalist technically. I looked these up on Google to be able to give you guys kind of an idea of what it's for. So I'm not necessarily an expert. Proceed at your own risk. I would always recommend that you stick with the magical uses of herbs rather than medicinal, unless you talk to someone who knows more than I do, basically. The third root I want to talk about is poke root. Now, poke is like everywhere. It normally grows berries in the fall or in the summertime, and it is also poisonous, like significantly poisonous. So it's another thing you should not use medicinally. But magically, it is often used as a protection amulet, either worn or hung in the home. And I used to actually have one growing on the side of my house. I think I have some growing in the back. It is another thing, it's everywhere. I read somewhere that it's actually really rare in like Europe, but you can find it like everywhere in the United States, all over the place. But as medicinally, like I said, it's very powerful and very toxic, but there are some accounts on the internet of people who have used it to help with decongestion of the lymphatic system specifically. So it helps with things like mastitis and breast cancer, and is also sometimes used as an immune stimulant. But again, please don't do that. I'm just telling you what I found on the internet. The fourth root, so we're on the second to last, we're almost to Mabon. Again, if you're here watching, please throw hashtag live, hashtag replay in the comments so they know that you're here so I can say hello. Number 4 is skunk cabbage, and again, if you live near water, someplace that's very moist, there's usually skunk cabbage like everywhere. I have back behind my property, there is a little stream, so there's just skunk cabbage and fern and all of these things like everywhere. Skunk cabbage is called that because if you brush up against the leaves or get close to it, it has a distinctly skunky smell, which is kind of gross. But the roots do have medical and medicinal value. Magically, it is associated with karma, law, and good luck. Medicinally, it is supposed to be good for what is called wet lung conditions, so things like asthma or bronchitis or things that involve an excess of fluid in the respiratory system. And it is often used as a tea or a tincture. The root, again, specifically. And then my fifth and final root that is excellent for harvesting in the fall is false Solomon seal. So there's Solomon seal and false Solomon seal. And the way that you can tell the difference between them is that the leaves look very similar, but real Solomon seal has multiple flowers that kind of shoot off the back side of the main stem. And the leaves kind of come out this way and you get flowers coming this way. Whereas false Solomon seal only has the flowers that come off the end. They don't come off multiple places, just one flower off the end. Leaves, flower. False Solomon seal. So false Solomon seal root. The smoke is said to be very calming, so it's good for burning and using in like smoke cleansing bundles or practices, or using it as even as a loose incense, so to speak. And then medicinally, it is said to be anti-inflammatory if used topically. It is used as a syrup for cough or sore throat, and sometimes as a tea for constipation. But it can be a really strong laxative, so again, please don't do these things without the advice of someone who knows more than me. Just kind of giving you guys an idea of what the value of it is and why you might want to have it on hand. So that said, let's talk about Mabon, because that's what you all came here for. Again, if I'm going to say this a bazillion, probably more times, so I'm going to say it right now. If you're here, please give me a hashtag live or a hashtag replay in the comments or wherever you are, whatever the comments are on the platform you're watching. Please let me know you're here. I would love to know. Every time you post a hashtag like that, it helps other folks find us. And I'd like to not shout into the dark. So please let people know that we're here. So, Mabon. So, culturally, across the world, people have been celebrating the harvest forever. I just realized that oh, okay, maybe the sound isn't on. So harvest festivals have been a thing for a long time. They are intended to celebrate. Yay, people have comments. Hi, Liz. Hi, Kelly. I'm so glad you're here watching me live. Thanks for being here. All right, let me get back to where I was saying. I'm going to give you guys some likes and some cares because I love you all for being here. Perfect. All right, so celebrating bounty, but also it's the end of summertime, so it's also the end of the warm weather and the ability for people to be outside and enjoy that weather. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, especially because I can see there's a few people, I've got a couple, but if you haven't yet, give me a hashtag live, just so I know that you're here so I can say hello. So obviously one way that can be a really great way to celebrate Mabon is to literally just get outside and enjoy the warm weather while you can. I know that where I am, yesterday we had a bunch of thunderstorms. I should say earlier this week it was really hot and kind of oppressive, and then yesterday we had a bunch of thunderstorms, and then today it was like gorgeous. It was like mid to high 70s and not too humid and beautiful. And I looked at the weather the other day, and all next week is supposed to be the same. Is the perfect time to get outside and enjoy some of the activities that are out there seasonally for this time of year. So go out and enjoy it. In the U.S., I know we talk about harvest festivals. In the U.S., we have Thanksgiving, which of course is really well known. But in other countries, there is, in the UK in particular, there's a traditional pagan harvest festival that was often held on the Sunday closest to the harvest moon, which the harvest moon is generally the full moon in September, which is often around the equinox, which is why in neo-paganism and Wicca and modern witchcraft, we often celebrate Mabon around the fall equinox, because they line up, modern neo-paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft are a relatively modern kind of amalgam of lots of different things, and it draws on several different cultures in order to, for all of its traditions and practices, and most of those come from, Anglo, like Saxon pagans, ancient Celtic religion and belief, and then also there's some Germanic things, and of course the occult, like Western occultism and all sorts of things, and alchemy. So there's a lot of those influences when you start kind of picking things apart that you can find. But that's why Mabon is celebrated when it is. And the other thing too with, the tradition for harvest holidays was, again, to celebrate the bounty. Now we live in the modern day where, food supply issues isn't really a thing. We're not putting in the legwork for growing our own food. For most of us, obviously some people do, but for the most part, we're not doing that. So in the modern day, a lot of our kind of harvest celebrations have taken a little bit of a shift away from the harvest per se and more toward focusing on being able to help support others in need, people who don't have access to said food supplies all the time. So there's a focus on community. So that's another thing that Mabon has to do with, is focusing on community. So that said, here are some ways. So with all of that in mind, again, I always like to talk about the history of things and the origin of things, because that is a really big influence towards how we might choose to celebrate today, or how we traditionally celebrate in the modern day. So here is how you celebrate. So we're talking about harvest. One way that you can celebrate is you can go to a pick your own farm, pick your own vegetables, pick your own fruits. Like I said, this is sort of the end of the harvest where you're picking all those fruits I was talking about in the pre-show about harvesting herbs and plants in general. And then of course once you go and do all of your pick your own, of course if you have your own vegetables, pick your own vegetables. That's important. You don't want them to go to waste. But once you go and pick your veggies from wherever you're getting them, whether it's going to pick your own or going to a farmer's market or wherever, have a big feast. Obviously, one of the things that people say about Mabon is they often call it pagan Thanksgiving. So, and when you have a big feast and you invite, especially if you're inviting friends over, social distance, wearing a mask, so on and so forth, it hits two marks. You're hitting both the food harvest aspect and the community aspect. And it sounds kind of still simple, but having a feast, this is the time of year to do it because there's so many yummy, fresh foods at our disposal. Again, I see a few people watching. If you're here watching, Julie Siller, # live, # replay in the comments so I can see you're here, so I can say hello. And as far as, we talked about Mabon as sort of being pagan Thanksgiving. If you are doing a big feast and you're thinking about doing something like that, witch it up. The traditional foods for Thanksgiving were not the foods that we actually tend to eat today. Those are very sort of Anglo-Saxon, English, anglicized, I think is another word people use. The more seasonal foods, especially for our locale where we are now, are actually, more indigenous foods. Fresh vegetables from things like pomegranate. Pomegranate is actually not necessarily local to here. Pomegranate is part of the mythology around the holiday and the greater mysteries from the Eleusinian mysteries, which I talked about last week in my Demeter live stream. But pomegranate is associated with Mabon very strongly, and I'll talk more about that again next week too, because we're going to be talking about Persephone. I can't wait. Squash is another thing that is indigenous and local to the area. One of my favorites is butternut squash. I love butternut squash. Yay. Butternut squash. Butternut squash. My kiddo made up that song forever ago. I bought a mini butternut squash, mostly because it was adorable, and my kid took a Sharpie and made a face on it, and it was their baby butternut squash, and then they made up a song about it, so it's a thing in at our house. Corn, obviously, corn grows everywhere around here. Corn is another local indigenous food that would be great for your Mabon celebrations. Another thing too, if you're thinking Thanksgiving, maybe I'll roast a turkey. Turkey is actually not traditional or indigenous at all. The turkeys that were around in around the first Thanksgiving, which I think was 1652 or something. That date might be wrong, so if Rachel watches this either live or on the replay, I'm sorry if I got that off. But turkey was not traditional. The turkey at that time was actually really stringy, and it was tough, and nobody really wanted to eat it. So the foods that they actually were more likely to eat are things like venison, quail, and there was even some thoughts about the idea that they might have had seafood, like lobster, because we're pretty close to the ocean. So those are things that are actually a lot more traditional for this time of year and for this holiday. And even if you don't want to have a feast necessarily, you could also just have people over. Like I said, this holiday is greatly about community. So if you don't want to have a big feast, you can just have a gathering, especially if it's outside with friends out in the crisp air. Have a bonfire, because who doesn't love fire? Everybody loves fire. If you're outside, and have yums and appetizers and desserts and things like that. Things that are seasonal. Think apple cider, apple pie, apple crisp, pumpkin pie, pumpkin whatever. Everybody loves pumpkin everything. Pumpkin is people are obsessed with. Or you can even get really creative and set up one of those projector type things in your yard to have people over and have a movie. Because I don't know about you, but I have like a long list of like fall movies that I love to watch every year. Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus, which I know those are technically like Samhain and Halloween things. But guess what, guys? What the next holiday is after Mabon? It's Samhain. So no harm in getting a head start on those movies as far as I'm concerned. I know, talking about the idea of community, obviously it's really hard to do this year, but one year I did a really great ritual where we created a web. The idea is that we were trying to demonstrate how everybody is all connected. And I took a skein of yarn, and we started with one person held it, and they said, hi, my name is, and they said something about themselves, something that they were passionate about that we might not know about, especially like a hobby or a talent or a skill. And then they would take it and hold on to the thread, but they would take the skein and throw it to someone else across the circle. And then that person would do the same until we hit everybody, and eventually we created a web. And the whole point was to point out that, we're all connected, that we all rely on one another. And so sharing those details about ourselves, yes, Hocus Pocus, Kelly just commented, everybody loves Hocus Pocus. The idea was in so doing that we, like if someone was like, oh, well, I really love building websites, or I really love drawing and graphic design, that is a valuable skill set, and it's really nice to know about someone like, hey, like I really need some help with this design thing, and now I know that so-and-so across the circle from me does that, and I could call on them for help. Just to point out that we can all rely on one another, that we're not an island, that we are one. So anything you can do that kind of to hammer into that concept of community is really wonderful. Another thing too is you can do something called a giveaway, which is something you can do easily with friends, or something that you can do on your own if you're not really comfortable hanging out with people. Is go through your closets and your summer clothes and all the things that. Oh, hey Gemstone 7, we're here talking about Mabon today. We're just giving some ideas for ways that you can celebrate. We talked a little bit about going to some farms or farmers markets and having a feast, and then having a get-together, socially distanced, of course, with friends. And I was just talking about doing a giveaway, which I think is a nice thing you can do with friends too. Cleaning out your house, donating what you don't want, what you don't need, things that maybe you don't fit anymore, and giving them away. I've seen people do this where, if you're doing it as like a ritual, and I always was my dream to do this as like a public ritual, and then I closed my shop and things went crazy and we never got around to it. But is that everybody brings one or two items to the ritual with them and puts it on a blanket in the middle. So by the time everybody arrives, no one really knows what came from who. Kelly says we did giveaways on the reservation. Yes, I will say that I think that the version of the giveaway that I experienced, I think, was very strongly inspired by that, which is what I'm now sharing with you. But everybody came and brought a couple items, put it in the blanket, and we did a little ritual. And then everybody at the end got to, everybody who brought something anyway, got to take something with them. So the idea was that, by giving you receive, which I think is a really lovely symbolism too. And also, kind of the flip side of that, so we talk about community. One of the biggest ways that we all kind of communicate and stay in touch with each other right now is through social media. And I think a really great way to actually help us connect is a little counterintuitive possibly, and that's to take a break from social media. Delete Facebook from your phone for a little while. Do what you can to kind of try to connect with people on a more personal level as opposed to an electronic level. Make plans to go out to lunch with someone that you haven't seen since the shutdown started, and sit, at a table across, so that you're, far away from each other, but, or I was at, this Gemstone 7 says she just did a massive clear out of her daughter's clothes and gave them away to a friend's sister who has a younger daughter. That's perfect. That's a great thing to do this time of year. Plus, just pointing out winter is coming, and I don't know about you, but after Christmas, my house is a disaster because we have this giant influx of like tons of new crap. So if we get rid of some of it first, it kind of helps to make room for things, which is sort of funny because it's like a really like literal take on the idea that when we are grateful and we give, we receive. So by getting rid of things, we make room for new things, both on a symbolic and literal level. So where was I? Oh, taking a break on social media. Focus on real-world interactions. I don't know what I was going to say. So earlier, maybe it was last week, I went out to ice cream with my 8-year-old. I think she's 8. Yeah, my 8-year-old. And it was super cute. There was a couple, so the way the parking lot was set up is it was sort of a right angle, and the corner where it met, there was a little like empty spot that they had painted lines on so nobody would park there. So these two lovely people, presumably dating, maybe they were friends, I don't know, came there with their masks and camp chairs and set their camp chairs up 6 feet apart and just hung out together and got ice cream together, which I thought was like the cutest thing ever. And that's totally a great idea that anybody could use. Like, go somewhere and eat outdoors and sit 6 feet apart and just visit with someone. This is the time of year for that, especially, because I think in the wintertime, a lot of us are going to be really hermiting again and kind of, going internal and not going out as nearly as much as we have been over the summer and fall, which is saying something because a lot of us haven't been doing it a lot now either. So take advantage of it now while the weather is nice and while the season is right for it, for sure. The other thing too is you can focus on things like crafting, especially with seasonally appropriate things. If you follow me in my email, or if you follow my blog, last week I posted a thing about apple magic crafting. And there's a really fun craft. So I talked about going to the farm earlier. Obviously, going to our orchards is another thing, and picking apples. I love apple picking. It's like one of my favorite fall activities. But the craft involves taking the apples and cutting them in half the short way, which exposes the star in the middle, and you can use those as a stamp, and you can make an apple tree and be really cute. But there's more about apples and apple magic and the correspondences of that on my blog, so feel free to check it out. If you're watching on Instagram, the link in my bio ultimately leads to my website if you really want to check that out too. And then the final thing I want to talk about is looking to mythology for inspiration. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I mentioned the pomegranate, and I'll talk about it more next week. But one of the biggest myths that is associated with this time of year is the myth of Persephone and the descent of Persephone. I don't know if it's called, and the greater mysteries, which involves her being kidnapped and becoming the queen of the underworld, so on and so forth. In fact, all of the items in my ritual bundle, and actually my Mabon collection in general this year, are very much inspired by Persephone and the myth of Persephone and the greater mysteries. And actually, that's the last thing I want to talk about today, as far as ideas for Mabon. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them into the comments below. And while you're doing that, I'm actually going to show off some of the cool things that are in that collection so you can see them for yourself. First thing, of course, is my, you're very welcome, Jen07. She said, thank you for the information. Feel free to go back and watch this from the beginning because there is even more that you missed at the beginning with some more details and me blabbing and so on and so forth. But this shirt here is actually part of my collection. This is my Queen Persephone t-shirt. I created this design myself. That's kind of the whole point. Kelly says, great ideas. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. And Kelly specifically, I know Kelly is a little bit more toward the crone phase in her life than maybe some of us, so she doesn't have the ability to get out as often. So doing, a big purge of things is something that you could totally do at home without necessarily needing to leave your house. Just going outside and appreciating the plants and watching the way, the earth and the cycles of the earth kind of shift and change as the year goes is great. And some of those plants I was talking about might even grow, near you and around your building for all we know. I've been to Kelly's apartment, so I know where she lives. But here, so Persephone. So this, I have this, actually, I'll show it to you on a scarf too. It's a little bit bigger design. But inside here, these are skeleton hands. And the idea is that on the scarf in particular, when you wear it, the hands are across your upper back, so it's like being held by death. Oh, Liz is asking if I could stand up so I can see the t-shirt. I'm actually sitting on my bed, and it's really awkward the way I'm set up to try to show you my shirt, so I'm just tilting the screen for a moment. Hopefully it works. Facebook is on a delay, so I can't really see what I'm doing. This page isn't available right now. Cool. So I'm just going to wait a second. But the skeleton hands, the idea is that they're supposed to rest on your back, and they're also holding these eyeballs. The eyeballs are the idea of protection, that, having eyes on the back of your head or being watching you. There you go. I know Facebook has seen it. You have the moons. There's moons here. There's moons on the outside, so you get the triple moon, and the jawbones, which also have tiny little moons in the molars. I know it's hard to make out that detail on the website, online, but that's what they are. And there's, of course, the skulls. This is a death head moth. But I wanted to, it's supposed to symbolize death, of course. And then the scarf, I'll show you that next while we're talking about it. This t-shirt is available in my shop too, of course. And actually, you might think to yourself that the hands are a little bit muddy here. I've actually fixed the file that's on my website since then, so it's much clearer if you order it, in case you were worried for some reason. And you can see it a lot more clearly on this scarf, which is quite large. There we go. So here's the scarf. Ugh, I love it so much. My live last week, I actually pulled it out and put it over myself. Like I said, I can't really get up and turn around to show it to you now, but you can really see the design really clearly on here because it's nice and big. I'm going to try to hold it down lower for my Facebook folks, so you can see the hands. Oh God, I love this. I love this scarf so much. Like, honestly, I was obsessed with it last week. I made a TikTok about it just to show it off. I actually had not pulled this out of the bag until last week. Like, I knew what it looked like because I drew it, obviously, but I hadn't seen it, the actual finished product, and I'm, like, over the moon about this. Over the moon, get it? I kill myself. Alright, so that said, those are those things. Also, so the next thing I want to show you is actually my ritual bundle. So I mentioned that it is inspired by Persephone. That's one of the main things that I like to do, is I like to actually create rituals. I'm all about creating rituals and ritual bundles that are intended to take all the planning and all the work out of it, especially for my witchy mamas out there, because I'm a witchy mama too. I got 4 kiddos, 4 witchlings, and we're all really, really busy. And sometimes writing a ritual and planning a ritual is just way more than we can handle. So all of these things are intended to take the work out of it for you. So my ritual bundle is a crowning of Persephone ritual. And the idea is that it's intended to reenact the myth that I was talking about. Oh, hey Creek Time, we are here talking about how to celebrate Mabon. I'm just showing off some of the items from my Mabon collection. If you want to go back and rewatch the beginning of the video, I talk a little bit more about the history of harvest celebrations and actual celebration ideas. So in my crowning of Persephone ritual, it is based around the myth of Persephone, in which, and I'm likening the idea of Persephone's descent into the underworld as sort of giving ourselves permission to start the process of withdrawing internally for the winter. You know, and that's what happens in the myth, is that Persephone descends into the underworld and she becomes the queen of the underworld. And so in so crowning ourselves in the ritual, we are giving ourselves permission to become that queen, that, you know, and remind ourselves that queens do rest and queens need to relax and take time to themselves to internalize and introspect and do all of those things. So in the ritual, this is the crown of Persephone. This is part of the bundle. I love these. This is super fun. I'm going to sit back a little bit in case people on Facebook can't see the top. The scarf is not officially part of the collection, but it does fit into the ritual if you have it. But of course you can omit the part if you don't have it. I love those. Those are great. The one other part of the bundle is this Queen Persephone oil. So Persephone, in addition to being queen of the underworld, is also a flower maiden, also called Kore or Kore. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So this oil is sort of, I tried to capture sort of on the low notes, this sort of musky scent to sort of reflect her being the underworld goddess, but also these really high florally fruity notes. So you get a little bit of both, and it's quite lovely. So this is the Queen Persephone oil. I don't know how well you can see this on Instagram. There's a bunch of herbs and gemstones in here too. I'm going to hold it down here so Facebook can see. So this is in there. And then of course the ritual itself. So the rituals I have that I offer are illustrated in addition to being written. So the font that they are in is actually a font created for my own handwriting. I can't, oh hey! Hey Brian, glad you could make it. We're talking about how to celebrate Mabon today. Right now I'm actually showing off my Mabon collection. Feel free to watch, of course, but you might want to go back and watch the whole thing from the beginning after so you can see the whole thing. So here it is. So I really wanted to show this to you guys last week, but my printer was like on the fritz and I could not. Only in the past week did I get it fixed. So I have the whole ritual in my book now that I could show you. Actually, I should really show you what my book looks like first because I'm ever so proud of it. I did not make this book. This book was purchased from an artist crafter called Bram's Bookworks. You can find them on the Google. It is actually a 3-ring binder. So in the back of the book, these rivets actually unscrew, so you can take pages in and out, which I love. I put all of my rituals in here. Everything I've ever written is in this book, which is quite a few things. It's actually like almost full at this point. You can see there's some blank pages back here, but not a whole lot. Running out of room. So let's see. Let's get back to Mabon. So here is the crowning of Persephone ritual. Oh, there we go. So you can see this is the main image on the title page. This is, again, this obviously comes with the ritual if you purchase it. You can also buy this as a print separately, which I am in love with. So you can see here, this is a supply list. And there is all sorts of little illustrations in here. This is Persephone and Hades. Here's the other image again. This is actually Demeter. This is also available as a print by itself too. And then we have Cakes of Ale. This is the Hand of Hecate. This is available as a sticker separately on our website too. And then actually the Persephone image on the front is also available on a t-shirt and as a sticker. And it says on it, Flower Maiden by day, Underworld Queen by night, which I love. As a Gemini, the kind of dual nature of Persephone totally sits with me really well. I really love her. So that's the ritual that comes with it. Like I said, illustrations by yours truly. The font is my handwriting. I put a lot of myself into it. Alright, so I have 3 more things to show you. Like I said, if you have any questions about Mabon, please throw them in the comments. If you just joined us, throw a #live, #replay if you're watching after the fact. Hopefully, I'm just realizing that this was... No, it's okay. So, one other thing that is in my Mabon collection, this is actually also going to be in my Samhain collection. This is a hag torch. You see it has its little... Last week I didn't have these labels yet. So these are mullein stalks that have been dipped in beeswax and then rolled in some herbs. These are very much associated with the goddess Hecate, which also plays into that myth that I kind of keep mentioning in passing. One of these will burn for about 45 minutes, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, hard to say. And let's see, the herbs that it is rolled in are... Where is it? Here we go. And I did do this myself, I just have a terrible memory. Juniper berries and tips, myrrh gum powder, lavender, mugwort, poppy seeds, and of course love. So these are handmade by yours truly. These are really great to use in any of your rituals that are for Hecate or for use as burden spells or rituals for shadow work and transformation, or of course anything that's for Hecate. So these are also really lovely, and you can find all that information I basically just said out loud on the tag, so you'll have this too. 2 more things. I have a couple of necklaces in my collection. Like I said, if you're interested in any of these things, you can find them on my website. On Facebook here, I'm going to include a link to my VIP list so that you guys can go check it out. Because you get 20% off your first purchase when you join. Of my Mabon collection. If you're on Instagram, the link in my bio goes to the same thing, so feel free to go check it out. So this is one other thing. If you're interested in anything, let me know in the comments. You can find it on my website, or you can always send me a private message. So this is a hand-painted Tree of Life pendant. It is white for birch, and there's also orange leaves on here. This is hand-painted. It says on here, this is Yggdrasil, the world tree, thought traditionally to be ash, oak, or rowan, not birch, of course. That was creative liberty on my part because I love birch. It represents the shamanic cosmology of the spirit world, so it's almost like a roadmap for the spirit world. And actually, I know Brian, I saw recently you were doing some drawings, so of that very thing. And then I have another one that's the same design but different colors. So this one is brown with green leaves. And just a note about all my hand-painted pendants, I'm always up for a custom project. So if you're like, well, I really like the brown, but I want orange leaves, please let me know. I would love to get you set up with that. I just realized I don't know if people on Facebook got to see the birch pendant here. Birch. And then not birch. Whatever we want to call that. So that's all I have for you guys today. Huh. That was a lot. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw it down below. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. I hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend. I am planning to be going out with my in-laws, one of which I believe is watching, for her birthday tomorrow night. And going to be doing some house cleaning, going to be doing some painting for some orders, and yeah, and then next week, like I said, I'm going to be talking more about Persephone. I'll be wearing my other t-shirt, so you'll get to see that design too. And we will chat a whole bunch more about her and her myth and how you can work with her. And I believe in the pre-show, I already forget what I said I was going to do for that. I have it on here, I think. No, I don't. We'll figure it out. Oh, I know where it is. In the pre-show, we're going to be chatting about... Come on, open. Pre-show chatting about we're going to talk about the significance of pomegranate across various different cultures. Obviously, we're going to talk about it in the Greek mythology, primarily in the live itself. But then I'll talk in the pre-show. I'll talk a little bit more about other cultures too, just for funsies. And the post-show, I will show you more of my Persephone things because I love Persephone and Persephone loves me and loves you, and Persephone and Mabon are like bread and butter, peanut butter and jelly, so on and so forth. So anyway, I hope you all have a lovely weekend. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I wish you all a blessed Mabon if I don't see you before then. Blessed be.